Okay, everybody, welcome. It's the Democracy Stupid. I'm Edwin Eisendrath, and my guest is Ben Collins. And I apologize for the late start. Ben and I are both in the same time zone, so we obviously got the time zones wrong. That's just the way things
That's the
work.
way it is. Yeah, it's really hard to get those things nailed down.
Yeah. All right. Well, so look, when Donald Trump says something, it's news, but it's often not true. That's a conundrum for journalists, but Ben has figured out that he wants to be on the true side rather than the other side. And so what did he do? He left a cushy job in a fancy newsroom at a very prestigious news company, and is running The Onion. Who knew? He took it over when it was a mess. He fixed it. If you want to know the backstory, Inc. magazine has a fabulous sort of history of that in its edition. I think came out today. At least I saw it today. Yep. Congratulations on that, Ben.
Thanks.
By the way. All right. So I want to, there's so many things I want to talk to you about. And one is that I tell young people that they are lucky to be alive right now because they're like, why things are miserable. I said, well, because the choices that you make matter. What you do matters. And you're one of the examples I give.
Oh, that's a terrible idea, but thank you for saying that. Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
Well, I mean, talk about it. You know, you chose to walk away from traditional journalism at a moment when that walk meant something.
Yeah, I agree with you, by the way. I hate to be hopeful at a time when that is not allowed, but like I just got tired of being despairing about everything. And, you know, in a lot of ways, playing by rules that kind of exist to serve people that shouldn't be served anymore. And like, I just decided, like, you know, the world's kind of your oyster once you take the, you know, take all those things that are handcuffing you to a bunch of like things that shouldn't exist anymore and start to see how available everything is. And I agree with you. I think there is generally here an opportunity for people to see that everything's broken and everything. Once you realize you're on the rubble, you can do stuff. You can start building things.
Yeah.
And that you know, kill your darlings and just move forward. And once you do that, you know, life's pretty good.
Well, you don't like the right-wing folks. You don't spend every morning counting your grievances.
No, I don't care. I mean, like, I think that's the other thing is I hope that the next generation just has been so inundated with people yelling at them all the time on the internet that they just don't even think about them and just build stuff and do things.
Well, how do you explain The Onion? I mean, is it like having your very own Jimmy Kimmel? You know, is that, I mean, like, what is it? What is it that, how do you explain it? How does it fit in the ecosystem of information?
Well, I think there's several reasons why we needed to save The Onion and needed to come through this way. I want to make it clear, the business was in shambles, but the basis of The Onion was important to save. You know, every day 15 writers go into a room, write 10 headlines a piece. That's 150 headlines, and they come out with like one or two. And write stories based on that. That is more rigor than any newsroom I've ever worked in, and that's the kind of thing that we need to save right now. Is everything was falling apart. So we gave them raises and we added more people for them to work with, and we started doing bigger stuff. That to me was important to save right at this moment. And they kind of get to the heart of every issue, and they know how to do everything right. It's not just like the politics of it. I think a couple of days ago we had a story about Dolly Parton where, you know, she died and went up to heaven to realize that God was illiterate. And I thought that was very funny. Yeah. And the copy on that story was about how Dolly Parton like went up there and no judgment was like, God, we got to teach you how to read, buddy. We got to get you some books. And that cut through everything. Like that to me is exactly the kind of response you want in that moment, because you're not being mean to her, being mean to the cruel world that she existed in and somehow overcame. And yeah, that's what we try to do, is we try to get to the heart of stuff like that.
Well, I mean, it's satire, I guess, and satire is a sane response to sort of overreach of power. I mean, it always has. You're in you know, good company, from Aristophanes to Jonathan Swift to Joseph Heller. I mean, and they're all different kinds of power that's sort of structurally impossible to deal with. And satire has always been the way, sometimes the only safe way to deal with it.
I mean, fascists can't handle ridicule. It's always been true. It's in every movement throughout all time. The thing that you need to get through this more than information is humor. You know, you think of Charlie Chaplin, the Great Dictator. You think of even like the Daily Show during the Bush years. That wasn't fascist. That was just stupid. Now we get both, which is unfortunate. Like throughout all of time, common sense, like you just brought up. that is a deep tradition in getting people to realize that, like man's folly at this point, that we are but humans, and people who walk around saying they know all the answers actually don't.
Not usually, not ever, really. So, Ben, I ran the Chicago Reader. I mean, the Reader and the Chicago Sun-Times. I took them over when they were both falling apart and tried to save them both, and they're still here. But I know something about the print news business. It's brutal.
It is.
It's brutal. But you found subscribers everywhere. Talk about that.
Yeah, we have 85,000 subscribers across, I don't even know how many countries, but all 50 states. And we did that by the way, we did this in 2 years and a week now.
Let me interrupt for 1 second. Those are print subscribers. Yes,
people getting a newspaper in their mailbox once a month, which is crazy. Like it is a crazy amount. When we did this, we thought it would work. I didn't think it would work to this extent. I didn't think we would be the 5th biggest paper in the United States, but that's where we're at now. And I look, part of it here is that we stand for something. I think I've been talking about this a lot. I went back to MS Now last week to do a TV hit, talk to some old anchor folks over there, nice folks. And I was talking to them about how I think people are in the action mode now. You can't for 12 years be like the sky's falling and that's it. Because that is not an acceptable outcome. You can't tell people the sky's falling, even if it is, and not try to,
pick it up.
Up there, so that's what we try to do. We brought back the newspaper. We give people catharsis through that newspaper. But then we tried to buy InfoWars to get in the way of an asshole. And that's important to us. Like we need to
go slow because you're going faster than I think people know. So InfoWars, I know there's still a Texas court problem, but you've largely taken on a whiny, sick man, Alex Jones, and stripped him of some of his most important assets, InfoWars being the brand. But I think you also got like studios and mailing lists. Oh, those mailing lists must be just fabulous. I'd love to take a peek at those. And a whole lot of URLs, domains. I tried to find one of them that was in that story and I couldn't find it this morning. But so what's happening with InfoWars and what do you want to do with it?
Sure. So our ability to get the physical assets is still held up in a Texas court, but the families have our blessing the families gave us the blessing to go and make fun of this guy with the name for the last few months. And that's
the families you're talking about Sandy Hook.
Yeah, the Sandy Hook families. Like we've been in touch with them this whole. You don't want to make a joke about something like this unless they're in on it and understand what's going on. So we've been working with them every step of the way. And I will say, by the way, they've been incredibly good at not just getting the joke, but telling us to go harder. Like they went through a lot with this guy
they went through hell with this guy.
Told everyone that their kids didn't exist or like they're all this awful stuff. And, they realize you can have fun with this now because they're actual human beings. So that's what we're trying to do. First of all, our first vote is just like pure justice. I think we've done that. We've done 8 episodes of a thing called Emergency with Tim Heidecker, which you guys can watch on YouTube, where, it's basically his 1-to-1 Alex Jones guy. He dies in the last episode by drinking too much of his, what's called methylene brown, which is their house-made laxative at InfoWars. So everyone should go watch that. It's really good. And then the next step is to take this awful thing and make it into something completely different. We want to take a bunch of all those people you see on Instagram that you laugh at and you don't know their names. We want to give them studio space and money to go shoot something important and good in their hearts, and put them next to very famous comedians. So they all kind of like meld into one. That's our next step with this thing. And, we hope to just build a nice, good empire on top of the ashes of that horrible thing.
So it's an empire of comedy in a way. And I know people listen to the show all over the place, but I'm a Chicagoan and Chicago is a comedy town.
It is.
Are you finding that the people that you're bringing in are also like, having a night gig at Second City?
Oh yeah. Like we have, I don't think people fully understand how much of it. We should glow up Chicago for a second. It really is a comedy town. There's a million improv clubs and people doing stand up everywhere and all this stuff in very weird places. And it's even more so now than it was years ago. Chicago still has low rent, so young comedians go to Chicago.
My daughter has done plenty of stand-up in Chicago, but she has said to me, "Dad, you can't come to these."
Yeah. This is a tangent, but I went to they had one of our best writers of all time, a guy named Skylar Higley, did a show at a literal attic at Northwestern, like somebody's attic called the Praddock, and like that they invite in very fancy comedians, and all the kids are. If you guys think you know where comedy's going, if you think it has anything to do with Joe Rogan or Clavicular, like nothing, not even close. A completely left field thing that has nothing to do with the left or the right. It's actually kind of heartening to see where things are headed, because thankfully it has nothing to do with the current culture war that is like plaguing our country.
Comedy's always an art form that's ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So it's impossible to know where it's going. It's always going. So wherever you put it's like mercury, you put your finger on it, it's gone somewhere else.
Yeah. What's shocking to me is I would say like 20% of the jokes were like relatively tasteful 9/11 jokes about like where people were and all this stuff. So I guess the answer to how long it takes to joke about 9/11 is 25 years. Like exactly. That's the answer. Yeah.
I mean, I have seen, well, anyway, so those of you who want to see a healthy city, one of the reasons Chicago's a healthy city, it's not because we got a great government, it's because we have all kinds of very strong civil society stuff here. And and comedy's a big part of that.
Yeah.
We can laugh at ourselves.
We have parks, the street festivals, all of these things. Like the thing the actual thing that makes a good city is culture that's definable and repeatable, and that people can come to expect. And that's the stuff that holds the city together. And then everything else is just kind of gravy. Like that, you need that, and you need trains, and you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, economy helps. We got to employ a lot of people. So I mean, let's go back now in the Onion and the political side. I mean, I know the Onion there's a lot of things to poke fun at, but what's breaking through?
I'll tell you, like from stats that we know and things like that, people just really don't like RFK Jr. Man, obviously there's a big there's a blank canvas. You can do a lot on there, but by traffic. There's a lot of that. And obviously they're sick of Trump. And like, that's like the three things that do well traffic wise for us, I think are actually pretty indicative of how the country goes, right? Which is like RFK stuff, Trump being a moron, obviously, and then Democrats not doing anything. Those are the three things that people really with. And I think that's where the country's at too. So
I do too. And I'm sad about the Democrats not doing anything, because I think it's a little misleading, but I understand why people feel that way.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah.
I want to show you something I'm old, so I'm on Medicare, which means I get their emails. Yeah. So like right before the show started, I don't know if you can see this, I get this email which says, "Stay healthy with Dr. Oz." And I thought, wait a minute, are you emailing me from the Onion?
Oh my God.
That's your tax dollars at work.
How many? 5 barium enemas, and you'll be just all good to go.
All good to go, right? And for better measure, don't bother with a measles shot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all good.
All right, I want to change the subject only if you're willing to go here.
Yeah, I would
love to. Look, the United States attempted to put your partner Kat in prison for decades because she protested ICE here in Illinois. For those of you who don't know, she was one of the Broadview Six, whose indictments were fraudulently obtained by the United States government, the U.S. attorney here. When you see Donald Trump brand everything with the word freedom, and he doesn't give a shit about Americans' freedom, that in fact, somebody close to you, he tried to take her freedom away just because, like, how are people supposed to think about that? And how do we push back? And how did you guys live through it?
Living through it was difficult. Like that was the biggest relationship test I've ever had in my entire life. And thankfully we're stronger on the other side of it. And I think that's going to be true of a lot of people in this country who have to fight back regardless of if they want to or not. And I think it's important to keep laughing through it and being above it, because otherwise you're going to lose your mind. Like it was a really, really rough year. She was facing 10 years in jail. for literally standing on the street in front of an ICE facility where a car drove through.
For making the king mad.
Yeah. Yes, for making the king mad. And we're still trying to figure out exactly how that process became so fraudulent. And the government is trying to hide those emails, and we hope that the judge unseals those emails. I want people to understand that it wasn't really an option for either of us to fight. You were at this thing. We had a talk with Julia Angwin, who wrote a book called On Courage. Very, very good book. And there is a section in there by a dissident, I believe I think it was a Serbian dissident. That's what it was. But he talked about the two kinds of freedom that you have, which is the freedom to like walk around and do stuff and, go and have an ATV or whatever you want to do, which is one kind of freedom. And then there's the freedom to like exist in your own mind without like the pang and guilt of what's going on. And, he chose the second thing, and it put him in jail, and he would have to redefine freedom in his head as he got through that stuff. And he was eventually released and is a hero and all this stuff now. But that secondary freedom is not something I could relinquish, and neither could Kat. We had this conversation the night after Trump got reelected. We had that conversation about what are we going to do? Because we were looking around and we were trying to find somebody who would step up. And we started to realize over the course of the next few weeks and months that everyone's just kind of like sitting on their hands and being like, I guess the country just likes fascism. He got elected twice. Like, I guess that's what it is. And I just didn't accept it. I just thought, you and I
were shell shocked for a bit.
You were shell shocked.
Yeah.
I think we both know, like, realistically, I come from a Republican family. Kat comes from a Republican family, and they're good people, but they're only that way because of Fox News and Rush Limbaugh and all this stuff. They don't want fascism. They want order, and they want things to remain the same. Mm-hmm. And they didn't sign up for this. Nobody would actually sign up for this, but we knew it was about to happen because that's what we did for a living. And we realized that it was on us in a lot of ways. And I will say from there, we realized once you realize that, once you realize your goal is not to, have a steady job that does this and that, and like have a house that has this and this. Once you realize your goal is that freedom, it's incredibly liberating. And I hope a lot of people understand that over the next few years, that the fight is worth it, that putting yourself in those positions to fight back in a way that's public and visible and gets people on your side, that is worth it. Because, despite all that stuff, despite being targeted by the government, neither of us regret doing any of this stuff in the last couple of years.
That's why I began where I did. That what you decide to do matters.
Yeah.
In this moment, and what you guys decided to do mattered. And it's infectious. So the other thing I wanted to do is to thank you. Satire is subversive, so is protest, so is resistance. And in difficult times, those things are also dangerous. So people engaged in these efforts need to protect each other. They need to build community. They need to get to know each other. And that's one of the reasons why I was so happy, and I'm glad you mentioned it, to join folks at your office who are engaged in this work, to talk with authors who write about this work and ways that people protect each other. That building that kind of community is phenomenally important in this moment.
I completely agree. And another thing we talked about that day was risk tolerance, where Kat told me she was going to go start protesting ICE at that ICE facility, and that required her to get up she has narcolepsy. It required her to get up at 4 a.m. because the transfers happened at 5 a.m. in Broadview. Yep. Which is, outside the city. It's like 40 minutes outside the city. And I was like, just please. I kept asking her, do not be on the front line, because I know what they do to people on the front line, and you're visible. Like, they hate you from your reporting days. I know that they know who you are, and they were looking for a reason to indict you. And even still, like I was so nervous about her. And then she would say, her argument back to me would be like, didn't you just pick a legal fight with the world's biggest conspiracy theorist as friends of the president? And I was like, good point. Touche. Like, this is a real thing that's the case. But everybody has their own thing. And that's why, like, at The Onion, keeping a thing going that's really good and doing the minutia and doing the day-to-day and getting new writers in who are younger, getting all building on this institution that we know works is a form of activism in itself, right? Doing the hard grunt work is a form of bravery that I don't have. I can't sit around and like manipulate an Excel document for people who are much braver than me, right? I couldn't do that. But that is a role too in all of this. So everybody's got their role. Everybody's got their own risk tolerance. But I think everybody should realize that we've all got to step up. We've all got to stop shitting on each other. And we've got to beat this thing down. Like, it's really important.
So all this work is helpful in saying the power structure that we have is dangerous and we need to get rid of it.
Yeah.
It becomes a different animal should we win, and we have to build it back up, because the habit is to continue to tear down the next time you get somebody there before they have a chance to do any good. So like you're going to have a really interesting challenge if we're lucky enough to win.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, there are plenty of enemies to pick on. You're going to still have the big oil companies. You're going to still have gun lobbies and all that stuff. But the temptation to just say anybody in government is fair target and they're all equally fair targets is a hard one to deal with.
No, oh my God, absolutely. That is, and I reject the premise, right? When I was a reporter, they used to come to me and be like, "Who's the, who's the Alex Jones of the left?" I was like, in terms of like impact, nobody. Like there are plenty.
In terms of lies, nobody.
There are plenty of people who are idiots. Like I have no doubt about that. But in terms of like building a $100+ million supplement empire per revenue every year, I'm sorry, it's not there. Like I don't know what you want me to tell you. So I just always rejected that premise outright. I do think like we're in a spot where Democrats can right now in this moment finally beat that Simpsons meme. The Simpsons DNC convention. It says above the nominee, it says we can't govern and we hate life in ourselves.
Yep.
Like there are guys out there who don't hate life in themselves and are at least attempting to performatively govern. It's like Zoran and people like that.
Look, I'm very happy with what happened in these primary season, Ben.
Me too.
I just think that for a long time in America, it was legitimate for if you're one party and there's another, and there are two legitimate parties, you go to Washington to negotiate your differences. The problem is the Republicans decided they weren't that party. They weren't negotiating anything. They were my way or fuck you. And the Democrats were a little slow to catch on. But I think they've caught on. And this primary cycle has delivered, sometimes I would have preferred another candidate, but as a whole, they've delivered both a generational change and a change from let's make a deal to, we're going to get stuff done.
Yeah. And I want people who did lose in this cycle to realize like Francesca Hong, who I think is so cool and so much like me in ways good and bad, that 50 years ago, like people would call you like a Black Panther and try to shove you in prison for saying what she said. And she was almost the governor of Wisconsin. Like she's so cool. And I hope people realize like, we're turning towards these things where the goal is to feed people and to get people to be happy.
Yeah.
Even if you're not going to win this cycle. Now, some people did sneak through, and this is awesome. Like, I think it's what Abdul is doing on Fox News is very interesting. Just basically just co-opting the machismo thing and just like throwing it back in their face and being like, okay, all right, fine, but let's talk about things that matter. I think it's really good, and like a wide variety of candidates is good. I hope we coalesce, especially heading into 2028, because we got to have a future that's not this.
Yeah, I think the candidates who didn't win haven't taken their marbles and gone home. No. They have stayed with this fight and stayed. I just think it's remarkable. Kat included.
And this is what primaries are for. Like, where's the party at? You guys, people forget this, but if you look back at Donald Trump's debate performances, when all the media was saying, what is this guy talking about?
Mm-hmm.
If you look back, like, of course he's the nominee. Of course he was, because that was a real primary where a guy went in and just started like doing roast comedy. And it turns out that's what Republicans want. They want racist roast comedy. That's the thing that they always wanted, of course. But you only find that out with a true primary in this many primaries across the country.
Yeah.
And like, that's the thing. It's like establishment people and establishment candidates are always gonna have that leg up. They're always gonna have the extra money. But that's what makes them the establishment.
No,
and
that's right.
Right. And like they're going to win sometimes too, and that's.
And they're not all terrible folks. So taken together, that's why I'm confident we're going to. I don't know who our presidential nominee is going to be. I'm confident we will find one and it'll work.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think I don't think there's going to be like this great uniter thing, but I do think there is going to be a time when everyone's like, guys, we got to just fucking focus for 5 seconds. We got to focus. And I think that we will get to that moment because things are going to be so bad by that point. We're going to have to.
Things are getting bad. Things are getting worse by the day with these guys. I mean, I don't know. You can't be funny enough to make up stuff like, oh, I'm renaming Lake Ontario this afternoon.
It's really, it's beyond stupid. It really is beyond stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't even know how we touched that one. I'm interested to see what comes out of the writers' room tomorrow.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Well, all right, Ben, tell everybody how they can subscribe and add to this growing list of subscribers.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to onionmembership.com. That'll get you one right away. You get one of 2 tote bags, one that looks like a New Yorker tote, but isn't like scare some people, or an InfoWars tote, which would be good. It's $9 a month or $100 for the year. Good gift for literally anybody. So go get one. And then, I don't know, just follow the Onion, follow InfoWars, and come hang out with us. It's a nice time.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Ben. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.